The stale scent of infidelity clung to the silk sheets, a perfume of betrayal that only Amelia seemed to detect. Her husband, David, snored softly beside her, oblivious to the storm brewing within his seemingly docile wife. The discovery had been a slow, agonizing unraveling, a tapestry of deception meticulously woven by David and her best friend, Sarah. A forgotten phone, a string of hushed messages, then the undeniable, gut-wrenching confirmation. The world, as Amelia knew it, had shattered, but she, remarkably, had not. Instead, a chilling calm had settled over her, a clarity that sharpened her mind and hardened her resolve. Confrontation was for the weak, for those who craved immediate catharsis. Amelia, however, craved something far more enduring: retribution. She would not scream, she would not cry, she would not even raise her voice. No, she would smile. She would pretend. And while they reveled in their clandestine affair, she would meticulously dismantle their lives, piece by painstaking piece, until they were left with nothing but the ashes of their own making. Her strategy was simple yet devastatingly effective. Be indispensable, then become destructive. She would remain the loving wife, the supportive friend, all while orchestrating their downfall from the shadows. The first phase involved gathering intelligence. She became a silent observer, a data collector. She monitored David's phone, not for new messages to Sarah, but for financial transactions, for business contacts, for any vulnerability she could exploit. She subtly probed Sarah about her aspirations, her anxieties, her deepest desires. She learned of Sarah's desperate desire for a promotion, her precarious financial situation, her carefully curated public image. Amelia started small, with subtle nudges and manipulations. David, a real estate developer, was obsessed with a lucrative commercial project. Amelia, with her sharp mind and keen eye for detail, had always been his sounding board, his trusted advisor. Now, she subtly began to inject doubt, to plant seeds of caution. "Are you sure about that contractor, David? Their financials seemed a little optimistic in the reports you showed me." Or, "Have you considered the zoning changes proposed for that area? It could significantly impact your timeline." David, accustomed to her astute observations, absorbed these comments, unaware they were subtly guiding him towards riskier, less profitable decisions. Simultaneously, she began to weave her web around Sarah. Sarah, a marketing executive, confided in Amelia about her ambition to land a major client, a prestigious luxury brand. Amelia, ever the supportive friend, offered to introduce Sarah to a contact she knew in the industry, a seemingly innocuous gesture. The contact, however, was a former colleague of Amelia's, an individual with a reputation for being charmingly persuasive but ultimately unreliable, a master of promising the moon and delivering dust. Amelia knew this, of course, but presented him to Sarah as a brilliant networker. The initial cracks began to appear. David, following Amelia's subtly planted suggestions, made a series of questionable investments in the commercial project. The optimistic contractor proved to be exactly that, leading to significant delays and cost overruns. Amelia, ever the doting wife, offered solace and practical solutions, masking her quiet satisfaction. "It's all right, darling, we'll get through this. Perhaps we need to liquidate some of your less stable assets to cover the shortfall," she suggested, subtly pushing him towards selling off a particularly valuable land parcel he had inherited, one she knew held immense sentimental value for him. Sarah, meanwhile, was enthusiastically pursuing the luxury brand client with Amelia's brilliant networker. The contact, true to form, made grand promises, introducing Sarah to low-level associates and creating an illusion of progress. Sarah, desperate for the win, poured her time and energy into this fruitless endeavor, neglecting other, more promising opportunities. Amelia would listen with feigned empathy as Sarah recounted her breakthroughs, offering words of encouragement while knowing the entire pursuit was a carefully constructed mirage. The psychological manipulation was her masterpiece. Amelia understood their weaknesses, their insecurities. David's ego was his Achilles heel. He prided himself on his business acumen, his ability to always come out on top. Amelia began to subtly chip away at this image. At social gatherings, she would accidentally let slip details of his recent business setbacks, couching them as learning experiences or unforeseen challenges, but ensuring the information spread like wildfire through their social circle. She would lament with a practiced sigh, "David's been under so much pressure lately, with the market being so unpredictable." This allowed others to draw their own conclusions about his dwindling success. Sarah's greatest vulnerability was her carefully constructed public image of perfection and success. Amelia began to subtly undermine this. She innocently brought up past mistakes Sarah had made in her career, always with a sympathetic tone. "Oh, remember that time, Sarah, when you almost lost the Henderson account? You were so stressed." These seemingly innocuous remarks, delivered in front of mutual friends, began to sow seeds of doubt about Sarah's competence and reliability. She even began to accidentally send group emails with slightly unflattering photos of Sarah, always with a cheerful caption that masked her true intent. The financial bleed for David intensified. The commercial project became a money pit, fueled by Amelia's calculated advice. She subtly encouraged him to take on more debt, always framing it as a necessary evil to turn things around. She even discovered a fraudulent invoice from one of his suppliers, a supplier she had subtly introduced him to, further eroding his trust in his business associates and isolating him. David, increasingly stressed and bewildered, began to rely more and more on Amelia, ironically clinging to the very person orchestrating his downfall. Sarah's career, too, began to falter. The luxury brand client, after months of empty promises, finally pulled out, leaving Sarah humiliated and professionally bruised. The brilliant networker vanished, leaving no trace. Amelia, of course, was there to offer a comforting shoulder, feigning outrage at the contact's unprofessionalism. "How could he do this to you, Sarah? You worked so hard," she would exclaim, knowing full well she had set the entire trap. Sarah's reputation at work took a hit, and her ambition, once so vibrant, began to wane under the weight of repeated setbacks. As their professional lives crumbled, Amelia moved to dismantle their social standing. She hosted elegant dinner parties, inviting their mutual friends, and subtly, almost imperceptibly, began to highlight their flaws. She would praise David for his resilience in the face of these unfortunate business ventures, implying his struggles were ongoing. She would commiserate with Sarah about the challenges she faced at work, hinting at her professional shortcomings. Always with a smile, always with a touch of concern, she painted a picture of two individuals slowly losing their footing. The emotional toll began to manifest. David, consumed by financial anxiety and professional failures, became irritable and withdrawn. His once vibrant spirit dulled, replaced by a constant furrow in his brow. He started drinking more, seeking solace in alcohol, a habit Amelia subtly encouraged by always ensuring his favorite whiskey was well stocked. Their intimacy, already a casualty of the affair, evaporated entirely. Amelia, ever the stoic wife, bore his moods with practiced patience, her heart a block of ice. Sarah, once so vivacious and confident, became increasingly insecure. The professional setbacks, coupled with the subtle social ostracism orchestrated by Amelia, chipped away at her self-esteem. She started questioning her abilities, her choices, her very worth. The affair, once a thrilling secret, now felt like another burden, another source of shame. She sought comfort from David, but he too was spiraling, unable to offer the support she desperately craved. The final phase was the grand reveal, not of the affair, but of their utter ruin. David's business collapsed, brought down by a cascade of bad decisions and a mounting pile of debt. The land parcel he had sold under Amelia's subtle persuasion was now worth 10 times what he had gotten for it, a bitter irony he would only discover later. His social standing was in tatters, his reputation as a shrewd businessman irrevocably damaged. Sarah was fired from her job, her professional credibility eroded beyond repair. The unreliable luxury brand client had spread word of her unprofessionalism, a whisper that Amelia had carefully nurtured through her network. Her social circle, subtly influenced by Amelia's narratives, had distanced themselves. She was left isolated, jobless, and deeply unhappy. Amelia watched them from afar, her work complete. She had achieved her revenge without a single raised voice, a single tear. She had used their own weaknesses, their own desires, to orchestrate their downfall. David, defeated and broken, finally confessed to the affair, not out of guilt, but out of sheer desperation, hoping to salvage something from the wreckage of his life. Amelia listened, her face impassive, and then, with a chilling calmness, informed him she had already filed for divorce, ensuring she would walk away with a significant portion of what little he had left. Sarah, devastated and alone, reached out to Amelia, seeking comfort, seeking understanding. Amelia met her for coffee, a picture of serene composure. As Sarah poured out her heart, Amelia listened, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on her lips. And then, with a quiet, devastating finality, Amelia said, "You know, Sarah, it's funny how things work out. Sometimes, when you try to take what isn't yours, you end up losing everything." The realization dawned on Sarah, a dawning horror in her eyes. Amelia simply raised her cup to her lips, the taste of bitter victory sweeter than any coffee. The stale scent of infidelity had finally dissipated, replaced by the faint, lingering aroma of sweet revenge. Amelia had not just dismantled their lives. She had rebuilt her own, stronger and more resilient than ever, a quiet testament to the destructive power of a woman scorned, a woman who had learned that the most potent revenge was often the one whispered, not screamed.